Hello and welcome to the weather update. It's 10 o'clock on September 22nd, 2023. And you see the clouds from Ophelia coming in already to our area today, thickening cirrus today and cirrus stratus. And this is what things look like in the afternoon. You can see the sky all pretty much with a veil of cirrus stratus and a few cumulus clouds around as well. So let's go to the latest on Tropical Storm Ophelia. And it could be on the cusp of becoming a hurricane here at this point. This was as of 8 p.m., and I know there's going to be another update. I think it's any time now, so I'll have to update this. But Tropical Storm Ophelia is producing winds just below hurricane force. So didn't I warn you that I said, well, first of all, this was going to be a tropical storm, and that it had the potential of being a hurricane. And I hate to pat myself on the back about this whole thing, but I am going to do that because everybody else was underplaying it while I knew that this was going to be a big storm because we have very warm waters to work with. Again, climate change is causing these storms to be worse than forecast. So water levels are rising along portions of the North Carolina coast. So as of 8 p.m., its location is 33.3 north, 76.6 west, about 90 miles south of Cape Lookout, North Carolina, and about 90 miles east-southeast of Cape Fear, North Carolina. Maximum sustained winds are now 70 miles an hour. Really is on the cusp of becoming a hurricane, and I think it could definitely become a hurricane. There's a very strong possibility that it will. It's moving north-northwest at 12 miles an hour, and minimum central pressure is 984 millibars, 29.06 inches, and you see that a hurricane watch is now in effect for an area north of Surf City. So we're going to look at the map in a moment here. And their outlook says that this north-northwest motion will continue during the next day or so, followed by a slight turn to the north and north-northeast. On this track, the center of Ophelia will approach the coast of North Carolina tonight and then move across eastern North Carolina, southeastern Virginia, and the Delmarva Peninsula Saturday and Sunday. And they say little change in strength is forecast before landfall. I think it's still intensifying. We're going to take a look at that in a moment. Tropical storm force winds extend outward up to 275 miles from the center. Wow, it's a big storm. A NOAA Seaman buoy at Cape Lookout, North Carolina, reported a sustained wind of 54 miles an hour and had gusts to 70 during the past couple of hours. So, yeah, this is an intensifying storm. So let's get to it. Let's look at the map first of all. Where is that map anyway? Here it is. So here you go, and they actually don't show the hurricane watch here, oddly enough. But there is a hurricane watch. I don't know why it's not showing here on the map, but there's a hurricane watch in effect as well, because there is a chance, there's really a chance that these are going to have to be upgraded to. Tropical storm warnings right now go all the way from pretty much Ocean City, Maryland, all the way down to most of the state of North Carolina right there. All right, let's go look at this on the satellite here, and let's move this over to here. We'll go to Ophelia. We're going to take a look at this thing. You can see, yeah, lots of blow-ups. So I think this could still become a hurricane at this point. Clearly see this thing. Really, I knew it would explode because you're dealing with very warm waters off the coast. The water temperatures are 5 degrees above normal, so this is what it does. And you can see, look at these feeder bands coming in too. That's going to bring the heavy rain for us. Let's go to the latest from Tropical Tidbits and look at the satellite image here. I still see a good amount of convection here. Even though it's not the most organized system, but it's really on the cusp. It could become a hurricane, even if it's just going to be very briefly. But I think it's definitely, I don't see it weakening until this thing gets, inland more, So let's go take a look at our current conditions, and you can see here's that tropical storm warning, all right? And for us, we have a number of hazards that we have to deal with too. High wind warning is in effect for, now they have it wind advisory. There was a high wind warning. I thought there was a high wind warning for the coast of Jersey there, but you can see we got the high surf advisory, rip current statements, as well as a coastal flood statement as well. So let's first talk about our current observations, because you'll notice it's been breezy out there. We've got the east winds, and let's load some of the observations on here if they want to load. Of course, this site is very fickle on wanting to work, but you can see temperatures generally in the low 60s. Of course, in the alley, I got more like mid-60s, despite the strong winds. You can see temperatures 61 degrees at Islip. Let's go to our highs and lows for the day, and then we'll briefly go over this. So pretty much low 70s pretty much across the entire area. Lows at night, 46 at West Hampton, otherwise mostly 50s across the area. The normally colder spots, I guess I'll have to zoom in a little more. I'm not seeing... Lows were not as cool last night, I guess because of the winds picking up. We weren't able to get the radiational cooling. But let's take a look at some observations here and look at the conditions also at our buoys. So let's see, 62 degrees. That's not a buoy. That's not a buoy we want to look. Let's look at this one here. Wave height's up to 7.5 feet with a wind gust to 34 miles an hour at that buoy. Let's New York Harbor buoy. Let's see if we can find... Let's go further south here. We have another buoy over here. Further south. Let's go here because you can see... Look at some of these wind gusts here at some of these buoys already. This buoy off the Delmarva here, it's already reporting a wave height of 11.8 feet and a wind gust to 42 miles an hour. So these are some of the conditions. And let's take a look at this one here where it's even worse. Look at this buoy here, 44014 off the coast of... where is this off the coast of... looks like Virginia, I guess. East-northeast wind at 38, gusting to 54. Look at the water temperatures, pretty warm, 77. Your wave height, 20 feet. 20 feet waves. So there's going to be some devastating flooding going on along North Carolina here. Virginia Beach right now, northeast wind at 30, gusting to 51 with heavy rain. Right, so you're going to have the heavy rain and then the east wind blowing the storm surge in to the coast, and that's the problem that we have. Here's a wave height, buoy reporting a wave height of 14 feet. Let's go to this one in the middle of the ocean here. This one's reporting a wave height of 13.8 feet. So you're dealing with, and the water temperature is almost 80 degrees over there. So those are the kind of conditions you're dealing with. Take a look at this buoy here, 41013. North-northwest wind at 47, gusting to 72 miles an hour. Wave height is up to 16.7 feet there. So this is going to be, everybody was underestimating just how bad this storm was going to be, and I think we're looking at a pretty substantial disaster for a lot of these areas along the coast here with these wave heights coming in. And, you know, it's going to be a lot of flooding and damage in these areas for sure. So let's go to the latest briefing on... They still call it coastal storm. Are you kidding me? I don't know what's... We have a president that's opening the Gulf of Mexico for more drilling, so what do you expect, you know? Tropical storm Ophelia will track north. I mean, Biden, he sucks on climate too, all right? He's awful on climate. All right, Tropical storm Ophelia will track north into the North Carolina, weakening across the mid-Atlantic states this weekend. Meanwhile, an associated warm front will approach the region tonight and stall south of the area this weekend. The system will bring a chilly, windswept, and soaking rain. So looking at the impacts, high surf and dangerous rip currents for ocean beaches throughout the weekend. Peak breaking surf of 6 to 10 feet Saturday into Sunday morning. I think it might wind up being a little higher than that, causing beach erosion, flooding, and scattered areas of dune erosion during times of high tide. Localized overwash potential is low, relegated to compromised dune system. Breaking surf will subside, but continue 4 to 7 feet Sunday into early next week. So I think they're underplaying it a little bit once again. Rainfall, they're not, though. We're going to see a lot of rain, 2 to 3 inches tonight through Sunday night, and 1 to 2 of that rain is going to be falling Saturday, 8 a.m. through 8 p.m. And we're going to have rainfall rates of up to a half an inch an hour. Minor, urban, and training. Yeah, we're going to have flooding here in Mineola for sure. Winds increasing 25 to 30 miles an hour with gusts to 40 across coastal locations Saturday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Impact scattered down tree branches due to full foliage, not fall foliage, but full foliage because we still have leaves on the trees, and a few power outages are possible. And they're saying just minor coastal flooding is expected. And this is your hazards map here. All right, you see here. All right. Coastal flood hazards, rainfall, which we're going to see a lot of, wind gusts, maximum wind gusts right there. I think the potential to the Jersey Shore is actually going to be more significant. So if we look at the Jersey Shore, you'll see we've got storm warnings in effect for the coastal areas. There is a high wind warning in effect. I knew there was. Let's see. So this is coastal Ocean County. There is a high wind warning in effect for that. And that's midnight tonight through 6 p.m. on Saturday. So again, we could see power outages due to that as well. Let's look at the radar now. Take a look at Ophelia's presentation on the radar. So there you go. You can clearly see the eye right here. Here's the eye. It's still over water, so it still has the potential to become a hurricane. And until it makes landfall, it still has the potential to become a hurricane, but it's not going to weaken until it makes landfall. You can see the heavy rain falling through much of the Carolinas here and into the Delmarva. All right, so this is the rain that's going to be heading our way from Ophelia. Let's see what, if anything, I'm going to just go to, let me close this window here. We're just going to close this. There we go. They have any updates on any damage that's occurring already, because it says conditions deteriorate. We're already seeing hazardous conditions. So Ophelia is becoming on, and this is what's going on. So we already have hazardous conditions here. It is on the cusp of becoming the 7th hurricane. All right, they say it right there. All right, waves. So already seeing flooding. Here you go. We're already seeing inundation along the coast of south of this is North Carolina, and Highway 12 at Muro Beach, North Carolina, was covered in sand and water. So already we're seeing washouts, and the thing hasn't even made landfall yet, which is incredible. And it's like I said, this is just an incredible storm, and everybody and there's still people underestimating it. But hey, this is the way people are. They just don't want to accept the reality that we are dealing with a real climate emergency. And so let's go look at some the power outage situation. Let's do that for right now. So Virginia, we have some scattered outages, mainly the eastern part of the state along the coast. And this number is going to grow as we see. And South Carolina also is 10,000 out. These numbers are going to go way up throughout the night. So let's go to, obviously, there's no sense really looking at the models. Well, actually, there is still. So these are your spaghetti models. You can see here, they take the and they curve it. They take it inland, and then they curve it offshore, and then some of them bring it back up again. So we have a very strange situation because, again, the jet stream is, not around, basically. So we don't know where. Still have an idea where it's going to go. Fortunately, we're not going to see those really bad conditions here, but I still think we're going to see a significant coastal impact. So let's go look at the models here, and we'll look at them again. Looking at the GFS first. So you see here's Ophelia making that landfall sometime overnight tonight into North Carolina. All right, and the rain starts tomorrow night, and that's going to continue. Though you notice there might let up. I'm sorry, the rain's going to start late tonight and last through tomorrow. You notice there's a little bit of a break that we'll get maybe later tomorrow night before another perhaps batch of rain comes in later Sunday with the remnant of it. Though once it gets inland, it will weaken. So fortunately, it's going inland to North Carolina. It's not staying along the coast and hitting us. And we're very fortunate for that. Otherwise, it could have been a much worse situation for us. But you'll see here, it makes that landfall tomorrow, and then we have this high that builds in for next week that we'll have to watch and look at trying to develop another storm to the south here and then bring it back. It's a very, very strange setup next week because, again, we don't really have a jet stream. If we look at the wind here, you see the jet stream is just kind of like a mess right now. Actually, it's only, there's not really much of it at all. You can see very weak steering flows. Again, this is all stuff that you've been warned about due to climate change, that we're going to see the jet stream basically fade away. So let's take things a little closer to the southeast U.S. first. And we will go ahead and look at I've kind of showed you everything that needs to show with the winds here. We'll kind of look at this here. You can see how it just quickly develops here. And then it's going to make that landfall. Once it makes that landfall, probably sometime after midnight tonight, probably a little later than that. But once it makes that landfall, it's going to lose its wind potential. But it's still causing a lot of effects on the oceans already. that we're seeing that are going to get worse tomorrow. So obviously for the Carolinas, it's going to be a very rough situation. We can visualize this on the Vent2 Sky site. All right, so we'll go to this. All right, this is Ophelia right here. So we go to wind gusts. You'll see this is Ophelia right here. All right, so moving this along, you'll see it gets closer and closer. See, there's that eye wall right there. All right, so that eye wall is probably going to make a landfall sometime after midnight. Places like Wilmington, Jacksonville, those are the areas that are going to really face some real devastation from this storm here as it makes its landfall. All right, and the thing is, we look at the waves and you see the surf that you have, especially north of the center here. You got waves, 20-footer waves crashing to these barrier islands, and you'll notice the ocean starting to pick up along the Jersey Shore by the morning. All right, and we move this into 11 o'clock tomorrow. And you can see the ocean waters are coming up, so that east wind slamming against the Jersey Shore. There's going to be significant coastal flooding there, and Long Island South Shore also seeing some coastal flooding as well. And if we look at the wind gusts here, you'll see, you can come right here, you'll see the winds that are going to be racing in. You're going to have gusts up to 50 miles an hour. Said the wind, it's going to be breezy here. It's going to be breezy. In the East End, too, could have wind gusts approaching 50 miles an hour. All right, definitely have that wind advisory in effect, but it could be upgraded to a high wind warning if need be, if it has to be. But you could see that east wind throwing the water into the Jersey Shore, so this is going to be a significant flooding. At least the only thing that's making it not going to make it as worse is we don't have a full moon. If we had a full moon, then it would really be bad. But again, look at these waves that we're dealing with. Big waves all the way up and down the East Coast, all the way from North Carolina all the way up to Long Island here tomorrow. And you can see it continues here. Look at these big waves that we're going to have again. So there's going to be significant beach erosion. And this continues as we go into Sunday. It does calm down Sunday. Yeah, you'll see it does calm down a little bit as the storm fades. But anyway, let's go back to our models here. And we'll go to the HRRR. Take a look at Adelia in high resolution here. So I'll move this to the eastern U.S. view. Not Adelia. Ophelia. Did I say Adelia? Ophelia. My mistake. If I said I was calling it Adelia, I meant Ophelia. So here you go. Here's that landfall right there. You can see it there. And it still drops the pressure a little bit, the HRRR. So that's why it could still become a hurricane shortly before landfall. Like, let me just check the Hurricane Center and I don't know if they have an update yet. For the latest update, that was, they still have it at 70. So let's see, latest public advisory, 8 p.m. So I think they have them every 3 hours. So I think the next one's at 11. But anyway, it could still become a hurricane, and then it makes that landfall. You see the rain affecting our area, real soaking heavy rain, especially first part of the day tomorrow. Lets up a little bit in the evening. See, it lets up a little bit in the evening. But you can see there is, and then we'll have, the rain's going to continue. And then Sunday we get another shot of heavy rain for Sunday. You can see there. And it's just going to be a lot of rain. If we look at the total accumulated precip here, and we'll show you this here, you'll see the amount of rain we're getting. In some of the areas, Carolinas also, we're talking up to 5 inches of rain in some areas. Let's pull this closer now to our area, right? And I'll focus on our area now. All right, so this is your HRRR, and again, you can see that rain starting probably sometime before sunrise, and then you can see heavy rain, windswept rain continuing, and lingers around. Might get a little lighter toward later in the afternoon and evening, but you still could have some light rain and maybe some annoying drizzle around. A little bit of a break, and then the next shot comes in. Another shot Sunday, and then this is the next shot of heavy rain that could come in for Sunday, later on Sunday, and that looks like some heavy rain right there coming in right there. And that's as far as this model goes out to 0Z, and that's it for Sunday. But you can see it's very slow moving because there's no jet stream to move things along, so it's kind of just sitting there and moving very, very slowly. Fortunately, like I said, for us, it's moved over land, so we're not going to see that wind component as much. We'll still see the coastal component, but if it went straight at us, we would be in a much worse situation. But fortunately, it's going to go inland and weaken. Let's go to the NAM3. Only have 31 out of that. The 0Z. So we'll have to use the 18Z run. So this is the NAM3, and you can see again, there's that rain coming in. Tomorrow, you can see that heavy rain at times. Gets a little lighter toward the afternoon. And then another batch of rain coming in Sunday. And NAM brings it in a little earlier and then kind of just has it kind of just sitting over us as light rain. But bottom line is this. We're going to have rain on and off and nonstop for a long period of time. It's a long duration event. Let's look at the total accumulated precip on the NAM. So you can see we're getting at the minimum 2 inches, if not more. This storm could put us on the record for the wettest September on record. I don't know what the record is for the wettest September on record, but I have a feeling this could definitely get us there for sure. I'll have to look that up. But anyway, that's the NAM. We go to the NAM 12 as well, which goes a little further out, 18Z. I'm looking at the higher resolution models at this point. NAM 12, the NAM is a little drier, oddly enough. Now, if you go to the GFS and look at total accumulated precip, GFS is trending drier as well, interestingly enough. So whatever the case is, the NAM and the GFS, this is the 18Z GFS run. So if we look at the GFS, so we still have some disagreement on how far that heavy moisture, how far north that heavy moisture gets. We still have disagreement on that because it depends on the strength of that incoming high that we have coming in from eastern Canada. So we still have disagreement on that. Let's go to the icon next. All right, so the models still don't agree on how much rain we're going to see. But I just think the potential is there for some really heavy rain. See that first wave of heavy rain coming in, and it lets up, and then we get another batch Sunday. And you can see it just lingers. Here we go on Monday. We're still dealing with rain chances. Tuesday, we finally start getting rid of the rain. So we're going to have 3 days in a row of rain chances again because there's no jet stream to move this damn thing along. So that's where we're going to see all the rain that we're going to see. And the icon looks a little wetter. So let's look at that total accumulated precip. It still keeps us below 1. So the HRRR is tending wetter. Which solution do I lean to is the question. I think it's going to be, I'm leaning toward the wetter solution of the HRRR at this point because that's more of an updating model. And I think you've got a lot of tropical moisture, and there's always a lot of potential for heavy rain when you have all that tropical moisture involved. So let's go back to the HRRR, and we'll go over our dew points. And again, kind of look at a couple of other parameters too while we're at it. But let's look at our dew points to show you again the east wind. So yeah, the warm front does sort of set up here to our south. You can see where there's much more humid air versus the air over us that's not as humid. And that kind of just stays in place. There's that low kind of gravitating toward us, but kind of still gets kind of shunted to the south. All right, so this is kind of the key, I think, because if we look at the GFS, it's similar. Here's the GFS. It's kind of similar here. All right, temperatures, obviously where that warm front is where your warmer temperatures are. All right, and that's when it moves inland. That's when it'll make the transition to extratropical storm at this point. But it'll still have some tropical characteristics to it. So obviously staying on tomorrow is going to be very chilly and raw. A little warmer on Sunday, maybe as we get the influence from that warm front, perhaps if it comes a little closer. But other than that, we know it's going to be a rainy, soaky weekend. I'm not even going to show you the sky model because we're socked in with the clouds, but I will show it to you just to visualize the storm here. So you could see there. You can see we're going to be socked in with clouds tomorrow and Sunday, and yeah, Monday as well. So maybe we see the sun maybe a little more by Tuesday, maybe. But we're going to have a miserable, gloomy stretch here. Though, like I said, if it didn't move over North Carolina, it would certainly be a worse situation for us for sure. But anyway, let's look at another parameter I want to look at. I need to go back to the GFS. I also want to go to, you can see this is the GFS, kind of shows you the way this thing looks. You can see the clouds kind of just sit over us, all right? And then next week, yeah, we're not really going to have any clear days anytime soon, but right now, I'm not even looking at that. So let's just change this to Eastern U.S., and I want to go to this other parameter which I like to use, which is your relative humidity. All right, so this kind of shows the moisture here. So you could see the deep moisture coming in here. All that green, that's going to bring the heavy rain. You can see it right over us. So that's why I think we'll see that heavy rain. But you'll see a little bit, it gets a little lighter as we get into tomorrow night. And that means the rain will ease off a little bit later part of tomorrow. But then here we go with another shot on Sunday. So it's going to be like a 1-2 punch of this, all right? And you can see as we set into next week, you can see what sets up to be a little stall front syndrome. You see, again, we don't have a jet stream, so nothing is really moving. And that's the problem when you don't have a jet stream. Nothing moves. And that's the scary thing about it. Obviously, people, they don't really take that very seriously. So there's another thing, another parameter we could look at here. I usually use this during the winter, but we'll use this as well now. This isn't really something I like using. It just kind of just shows you the amount of lift in the air. Go to 700. This is something, yeah, it's a little stronger to the south. Just kind of shows. This is what we use usually for snowfall, but sometimes I use it just to show you where the heavier rain will be. So it's really hard to predict how much rain there's going to be, but I think the potential there is for some really heavy rain. Let's go to the latest NAM 12, and we have a little more of it now in. Is this the NAM 12? I'm looking at the NAM 12, right? Okay. Not the NAM 3. Okay. This is the latest NAM 12. All right, so this is the latest NAM 12, all right? You can see there's that heavy rain coming in. You can see that's the yellows over us tomorrow, and then it kind of just continues. It doesn't really, the NAM just doesn't, it has it pretty much lingering all day long, and maybe toward the evening it kind of lets up. And then here comes another shot of rain for Sunday. So you can see it's a 1-2 punch here of rain that we're going to get. So let's see what the latest NAM has. Total accumulated precip, and there you go, over 2 inches again. So then that's what I'm thinking right now, is that we'll have over 2 inches of rain. Almost everybody will. In some areas, we'll get over 3 inches of rain from this. All right. We can look at the NAM 3, which doesn't show as many frames. This only goes out till 6 something. So if the NAM 3 has a different look, it kind of keeps the heavier stuff to the south, but this isn't showing the second wave. All right. Let's go to this. So this is the latest NAM 3, and you can see that first batch. There you go. And you get that little break later Saturday, all right? And then that second batch coming in right there. So there's your second batch for Sunday, and this could be heavy rain right here as well. So that's as far out as we've got on this model, all right? But this could be some of the heavier rain and maybe even a chance of some thunderstorms here, all right? So we'll have to see what happens with that and how much warm air gets in. Obviously, I don't think the Storm Prediction Center is going to have anything, but we'll go ahead and look at that. Actually, you can see they do have the slight risk right there for severe weather and marginal south of there. So if we move this to tomorrow, what happens? So you still see the marginal risk over there because you do have the storm, and there could be some heavy rain. And day 3, not really showing anything for our area, but we're going to have to keep this and keep an eye on this just to see what happens and how this all develops and pans out right now. All right. Now, one model I haven't showed you is the European, so let's go to that next. So we'll do the European next. All right. You can see it's similar. The models kind of agree on these 2 waves of rain deal, where there'll be heavier rain, and it gets a little lighter tomorrow night, and then another batch for Sunday. The question is, how long is that going to linger around on Sunday? That we just don't know. But let's run the Europeans precipitation forecast, and you can see pretty much 2 inches as well. So I really think that we're going to see 2 inches of rain, at least 2 inches of rain from this, if not more. So let's go to the windy.com. We'll do the windy.com model. Yeah. All right. So you can see this is the windy. And you can see this is what it looks like. All right. So you can see it's making that landfall, right? This Euro takes it, landfalls it a little further north. You can see some of those strong winds coming in, pounding the Jersey Shore. This is tomorrow, 3 o'clock. You can see, and again, where the European has some pretty strong wind gusts over our area. I see 41 mile an hour wind gusts. That's substantial. So the European is significantly worse than the HRRR with the wind. So this is why I'm a little concerned with the wind situation. And, of course, it's going to be even worse. Jersey Shore, you have winds gusting over 50 miles an hour. It's going to be power outages and stuff like that. That's a lot of wind there coming in for tomorrow. All right, because you have the pressure, you have the low, and you have this pressure gradient going as well. And you can see those blues there. It's a 50-plus mile-an-hour winds, and then, it's going to be rough tomorrow. It's going to be very stormy. As we go into Sunday, it dies off a little bit, but not that. It's still going to remain breezy. Still going to have wind gusts up to 32 miles an hour. Oops, I didn't mean to hit that. Let me close this down, please. And then offshore, you're still going to have wind gusts up to 44. So things don't really quiet down. And even Monday, we're still, as the storm lingers, we still have the pressure gradient. Here we are Monday, still dealing with gusts up to 29 miles an hour. And we'll now move this to the waves. So you can see how the other models kind of underplaying the wave situation. The first model is Sugar Ventu Sky. I think this one's much more realistic here. And you can see we're seeing those 15 to 20-foot waves there. And you can see how big this area is, too. Because Ophelia is a big storm. You can see some of the big waves there. All right, so we move this into tomorrow at 7 a.m. You can see we're getting the big waves coming in here along the Jersey Shore. Again, over 10 to 11 feet, 13 feet perhaps. Off the South Shore, similar deal, 10 feet. And it only gets worse as we get toward the afternoon. Here we are at 1 o'clock, and 16 feet. Whenever that high tide is, which I think is in the afternoon, 12 feet, you're going to have substantial flooding. I think a lot of people are underestimating how significant this flooding is going to be. 13 feet, and again, 14 foot, and then you go out more into the ocean here. You got 16-foot waves. This is substantial, all right? Here we are, Saturday, and then Sunday, it still doesn't really back off that much. It backs off, but we're still seeing elevated surf levels, 10-foot waves. All right, and then as we get toward it, by Monday, it goes back to normal. But this is a long-duration event, and that's the other thing. So we're going to have a pounding for a while at our beaches, and that's why it's going to cause significant coastal flooding. And that's I think, as far as what's going to be the biggest impact to our area, that is going to be the biggest impact. And, the rainfall will also be an impact as well. And that's going to be a problem, too, because you're going to have the rain falling and the wind blowing the water in, and the rivers, like Tom's River, for instance, trying to flow out and discharge that rain out into the bay, and then you have the east winds kind of pushing that back in. If we take this back to here, you'll see what I mean. If I show you the winds here. Also, we could also show you a swell model as well, but I don't want to use that. Let's show you those winds again. You see those winds in a pound pushing the water back in, so it's not going to let the tide flow out, basically. So this is why I'm concerned about places like the Jersey Shore, as well as the South Shore of Long Island, and the East End as well. Could see some significant flooding from this. So I guess that's going to wrap up this update, but I'm going to have more special updates on Ophelia through we'll have another one tonight so it says Ophelia is producing winds just below hurricane force. So we could be talking about Hurricane Ophelia, and if it does become a hurricane, I will certainly make another update on it. So that's going to be it for this one. Have a good night, and this is I warned everybody about this. I said it was going to be bad, and people underestimate. You can never underestimate climate change. If you underestimate climate change, then you're going to be in a world of hurt. So that is it for now. Have a good night.